Hi, and welcome to our Ascendancy tier list for starting the new Event League. The Legacy of Phrecia Event League is one of the most revolutionary ones so far. It introduces 19 completely new Ascendancy classes, each bringing fresh mechanics, unique passives, and exciting playstyles. The Ascendancies are fun, thematic, and highly experimental, but you should keep in mind they did not make it into the core game for a reason. Unlike the original Ascendancies, they are not well balanced in both good and bad ways, which makes creating new builds even more exciting, but also more risky. The endgame activities will also be vastly different thanks to the randomized idols you will have to collect, replacing the regular atlas. The new Ascendancies usually follow a specific theme. The possibilities are endless, but they are not equally strong. To ensure having a good time in this short league, we recommend starting with Strong Ascendancy to explore the new atlas and collect funds for more experiments in the future. In this tier list, we have rated the Ascendancies for starting the league in the softcore trade economy based on how easy it will be to get a lot of power without good items, how much room for improvements you will have, and how much can you experiment with once you reach your initial goals. Starting with Marauder Ascendancies, the Ancestral Commander goes into A tier. It is the tankiest Ascendancy in Legacy of Phrecia, but it is not a very contested role as many of them do not offer any defense at all. It doesn't offer that much damage, but after the buffs to all melee skills, it is not that problematic, especially if you don't need to worry about defense. The additional range from Ancestral Reach is very useful for all strike skills, and the Call of the Ancestors will make your auto-exertions more reliable. The additional endurance charges can also be turned into offense with skills like Tectonic Slam of Cataclysm or by equipping Arn's Anguish Belt. The Antiquarian seems to be locked into a very specific niche, which is stacking ward. It can be used defensively for mediocre results, or offensively with the Night Grip gloves. Paired with another unique belt, you can achieve very impressive amounts of chaos damage added to your attacks, but we wouldn't recommend basing your build on unique items obtainable only from endgame league mechanics. Sadly, in the current state, the Behemoth Ascendancy is completely unplayable. The first notable you have to pick is the Rampager, which disables all usage of all spells, which is simply too much to sacrifice for other bonuses, as it applies to many utility skills like Berserk, Guard skills, Curses, or Auras. Another Ascendancy we wouldn't recommend starting with is the Aristocrat. Unlike the previous option, it has a big potential in the endgame with attribute stacking builds, but not until you obtain very good gear. It may also be good for very specific builds, where the quality or levels of gems make a huge difference. It may be the case in builds that use Awakened Support Gems for added damage or Transfigured Skill Gems. Of course, those scenarios are not very realistic for starting a new league, so we recommend picking something else instead. The Gambler is not a very promising Ascendancy either. It offers decent damage if you don't have other source of double damage, and very good, although inconsistent, defense. While being good, it doesn't offer anything particularly interesting or build enabling. The chance-based defenses are not ideal either, and they don't work on the damage over time effect at all. The Paladin is the first S tier on the list. It is not very exciting, but it simply offers a lot of damage. The Elemental Relics cast Wrath and Anger auras, granting you a lot of elemental damage for attacks or spells. You will also make the nearby enemies take 25% increased damage, or an extra 20% if you use an auto-exertion setup with maximum Warcry power, or pick up a simple jewel with Taunt on hit modifier. Increasing the effect of magic flasks here is not as strong as the original Pathfinder Ascendancy, but it is not too bad either. This Ascendancy will be strong with most attack builds, but you can also consider a regular minion build, or even experiment with exploding your relics for massive area damage. All Templar's Ascendancies are very specific. The Architect of Chaos is very unique as it enables all sorts of Val skills, which is something most other builds won't even consider due to their rigoristic costs. In most cases, you will still need specialized items to make them work, so we wouldn't recommend this Ascendancy as your starter build, but there is one very powerful exception, which is a Veil Cold Snap. Cold damage over time skills are historically very solid starters that can carry you through the game on a shoestring budget. They tend to fall off when facing aspirational content, but at that point you can experiment with other Val skills, or focus more on speeding up your character with regular content. The Polytheist is a prime example of an ascendancy being very thematic, but not very good for the gameplay. It offers bonuses to only your attacks or spells, while other notables disable spells at all. Its saving grace is the Pyroclast Mine build, as the Devout of Lunaris notable is ideal for this kind of build. The Pyroclast Mine is not a very popular skill nowadays, as it is overshadowed by Hexblast mines, but it is still a very good skill nonetheless, especially on a low budget, and can be used as soon as you obtain the skill gem for it. Additionally, the level 20 Aberrath's Fury will speed up your campaign significantly, although it probably won't be good enough once you reach maps. The Puppeteer Ascendancy is all about minions. It is a very good option for all kinds of minions, but it is especially good for the animate weapons or zombies, with the Baron unique helmet and stacking lots of strength. With the Feeding Frenzy and Trypanon, your minions will always deal critical strikes, opening new possibilities for scaling damage. It is definitely a viable choice, but it might be a bit slow at first, and the minion playstyle is not universally enjoyable for everyone. The Bog Shaman is another great ascendancy that offers both simplicity and complex interactions. The Pandemic offers a massive damage multiplier for dot skills, but you will have to use Vitality Aura and Stone Golem to offset the downside during the campaign. The Fel Fen is also great for chaos skills like Essence Drain, Toxic Rain, Caustic Arrow, or any flavor of poison, and having 0 chaos resistance is better than the usual negative 60% you would have at the end of the campaign. It also frees the use of Despair Curse, so you can use a defensive one like Enfeeble, combined with Malediction Notable to massively reduce the damage of nearby enemies. The remaining notables are also very good and build enabling, although we wouldn't recommend them at the start. The Harbinger is amazing visually and thematically, but the bonuses it offers are just not good enough, even after the pre-patch buffs. It is a perfect ascendancy for the impending Doom build, as it needs a lot of cooldown recovery rate and area of effect for curse spells to be effective, but it also requires Vixen's Entrapment unique gloves, and ideally a very specific Forbidden Shaco helmet. The cooldown recovery rate is a very valuable and hard to obtain modifier for some builds on a very high optimization level, but it is not something you should worry about at the start of the league. The Herald Ascendancy, just like the name suggests, is all about the Herald skills, which means there is a very small amount of builds you could create with this one. The Herald of Agony is actually a very good starter build, and with this ascendancy it will be a very powerful boss killer on a minimal budget, and you can still use defensive non-aura reservation skills like Aspect of the Spider or Tempest Shield. The other heralds don't look that good without good items that would support their playstyles, but they can be made into very respectable builds once you pour more currency into them. The Blind Prophet is a very powerful and versatile ascendancy for any attack-based builds, but it is also the best pick for anything related to cast on critical setups. The 12% base critical strike chance from the Sightless is easily one of the strongest ascendancy notables in the game. The remaining options are also very good. The Nimes is one of the most expensive items in the game, and now you can have half of its effects for completing the Cruel Labyrinth, further enhanced by 2 additional projectiles with the next notable. If you don't want to use projectiles, the explosion from the Restless notable will greatly enhance your clear speed with any build, although you will need to reliably curse enemies to trigger it. You can have a lot of curses with the Faithless notable, so it shouldn't be a problem anyway. The Lightless is also interesting. With this notable, you can get a lot of extra maximum life, which is usually troublesome for builds on the right side of the passive tree. Using the Servant of Arakali as a poisonous summoner is a bit risky one. A lot will depend on how good the level 20 raised spiders are, but in the worst case scenario, it will be just decent. The Envy Aura will definitely carry you through the campaign with no problems, as it adds an insane amount of damage at that level. However, it is not just a summoner ascendancy, as each spider will significantly boost your own attack speed and poison damage. It makes it an excellent choice for any poison build, but especially the very popular Poisonous Concoction skill, which is known for being a good league starter. The Aspect of the Spider at level 30 can apply 4 webs onto enemies, which combined with the Silk Dancer will massively slow down your enemies and make them take much more damage. The Surfcaster is probably the most interesting ascendancy on the list. It offers a very good mix of damage, speed, and conditional defense in the form of Chill and Freeze, The Ghost of the Deep offers massive bonuses during the campaign, which can save you a lot of time, but it remains fairly useful even in the late game. This ascendancy is great for both spells and attacks, as long as you use cold or lightning damage type. The 2 Fishing Rod notables offer insane bonuses for spells and herald skills, but getting one will be tricky. The Changing Seasons is also amazing, but it requires a specific setup to work. Overall, you can't go wrong with this one, and there are a lot of possibilities for experimental setups with the fishing rods once you obtain one. The Daughter of Ashabi is a good ascendancy, but the theme here is somewhat lost. It focuses on many different things all at once. The main build profiles will be an attack-based wonder with stacking lots of evasion ratings, or a poisonous spellslinger with elemental spells. It also has the Shrine notables that will make any clear speed-focused build even better, but it is not very useful against bosses. At first we recommend a spellslinger setup. It has slower triggers than cast on crit setups, and sacrifices some auras, but you don't need to worry about crits at all. You can trigger multiple spells at once, making the combo spells like Detonate Dead very effective. With this class, you will have a smooth start and lots of possibilities to explore later on. The Whisperer is suitable for a very narrow set of builds, but in that niche, it is insanely powerful. It heavily focuses on a specific style of scaling attack damage, which is stacking lots of mana and using Indigon Helmet for the massive amount of spell damage bonuses, converted into attack damage at 150% efficiency. While this setup can work with basically any attack in the game for any type of weapon, it naturally works best with skills that already have built-in mana scaling to elevate them to the maximum potential. It can also offer great clear speed, thanks to an enhanced fork and permanent berserk uptime. However, due to its dependency on specific items and popularity, we don't believe it will be a good starter, especially for players inexperienced with mana builds. Remember, in this event you can change your ascendancy, so picking other options will probably be a better and smoother start. That said, it is so powerful even with subpar items, it should work decently enough to progress through the endgame and farm up for upgrades. The Wildspeaker is one of the greatest ascendancies for starting the new league. Most notably, it allows you to use Flicker Strike as your main ability right after the Cruel Lab, but that's not the only reason to pick this class. The Spectral Wolves granted by the Pack mentality grant an absurd amount of physical damage for attacks, which will trivialize the campaign, but is also useful at later stages of the game. The Scourge of the Wilds allows you to get a great amount of damage by stacking Dexterity attribute, which can be build defining, but it's also good with just a regular build that gets a lot of dexterity through pathing nodes on the passive tree. You will also have the option to get Tailwind for extra speed, or Steel Monster modifiers for 20 seconds, which is a massive boost to your mapping. The Scavenger class is quite literally the most unique ascendancy in the game. It allows you to choose 3 special effects of various unique items for crazy combinations, and you can even use those items to double their effect. The possibilities are endless with this one, but it won't work with just any build. You should plan carefully around the specific notables. The campaign will be on the slower side, as the first 2 options don't grant any damage, but you will gain a massive power boost once you complete the Merciless Labyrinth and start early mapping. This ascendancy obviously depends a lot on the build you use, but it works very well with the already powerful and popular starter builds, such as Power Siphon Miner or Righteous Fire. Later on, you will have an infinite amount of possibilities to experiment with, making it a very good pick for this experimental event league. This league is all about fun, novelty, and trying out weird combinations. Truthfully, many of them won't be as strong or well balanced as the usual builds with regular ascendancies, but it is the only time to experience them. This tier list covers only the starter builds, but there are also a lot more powerful interactions that await discoveries. As mentioned, most new ascendancies are the best for specific niches, but the new version of the Atlas will give them a lot more occasions to shine. As always, we will explore and research the new possibilities to give you the best tips and ideas for your future builds. We hope with this tier list you will have an easier time choosing your starter build. Visit our channel to get more inspiration for creating your own builds for this very exciting league. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video soon.